right, so here's my desktop. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Civic Hacking 101. Oh, why didn't load not load? So, who are we for those Javon and Alexis? Since I don't know if it's the first time you guys have been here. Javon, I think you've been here before. But we're Code for South Florida. We're a nonprofit corporation. We build services with the public interest in mind. What that means is that we focus on things that benefit, on projects, technology projects that benefit the greater good and benefit civilians, specifically around the area of improving government services. We have a few running initiatives right now, which we'll tell you all about soon. But we leverage our network of technologists, designers, and problem solvers in South Florida to basically help us with these efforts. It's more recently, we used to be Code for Miami, and we merged with Code for Fort Lauderdale, so that we can basically represent the interests of the region as a whole in terms of technology. So this is also a way for us to represent the region and the region's civic technology interests more effectively. So we get some other people joining. Oh, Roberto's here. Great. And we got more people coming in. That's a good feeling. Hello, Kimberly and Roberto. Thank you for joining. But anyway, so Alexis, I heard a little bit about you. Javon, I know you. We got a few more people coming in here. Roberto, can you hear me? Okay, well, I guess we'll move on. So what is civic hacking, right? When people hear about us, one of the first things we start telling them is like, oh, civic hacking, civic technology projects. What does that mean? And the first thing people think of is the word hacking. Like, what are we hacking, okay, right? So let's talk about what hacking actually means, just to get a definition down. Hacking, or a hacker really, is a person who enjoys learning the details of computer systems and how to stretch their capabilities. Hacking is also very popularly used to describe things like growth hacking, or when you're hacking away at a problem, that means that you're consistently dedicating yourself to something. It's more popular. It stems from the use of hacking, like getting into computers and really understanding, in this case, really understanding how systems work and how to work within their capabilities to get certain outcomes or figure out what's possible. So how does this apply to civic hacking? Well, civic hacking isn't necessarily breaking into computers. It's not bypass security. It's not social engineering to get valuable information. It's not circumventing authority. It's not exploiting technology, as most people would think about hacking, right? It's none of these things. What civic hacking really is, it's based on some definitions you can find online from several reputable sources. Civic hacking is a creative and often technological approach to solving civic problems. The main keywords here being creative, technological, and civic problems. A civic hacker is someone who is willing to collaborate with others to create, build, and invent to address the challenges relevant to our neighborhoods, our cities, our states, and our country. So as you can see, the definitions really have to do not so much with not so much with not only with using technology, but there's also very much a social or communal component to it, where the act of innovation in itself is done with the purpose of addressing the issues around our communities and around our neighborhoods that are relevant to the people around us and our fellow citizens. So overall, civic hacking in general, it's a process. So it's a way by which you can bring about positive change. It's a tool. It's a means to solve problems. So if you think in terms of civic hacking, and you have a clear definition of what civic hacking is and how it works, then it can be a tool for positive change in itself. It's also an attitude. It's a way, it's a way to think about certain problems, and it's a way to, it's a way to address. It's a way to think about problems and a way to think about your community in order to reach new solutions for old or new problems alike. And it's ultimately a different thing to different people. You can think of it in different ways, and depending on your skill set and the way that you, depending on your skill set and the way that your general philosophy, you could approach it differently, but the outcome of solving problems and improving the lives of your fellows, of your community, in your community, is still the same. So, in summary, really, civic hacking means what civic hacking means to me, as someone who's been working with Code for Miami for, for quite some time now, is that great ideas are born from independent initiative and collective contribution to the greater good. So you have a bunch of people coming together and they say, there's a problem in our community. There's something that we need to do. How do we fix it? And we use all of our skills and we use everything that we know about that problem to go ahead and tackle that problem. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, but there's nothing mystical to it. But it's really about people at its core, and how do we find solutions to the problems in our community. So a good example of a civic hacking process per se is something that is happening currently in our Slack channel. It's an ongoing project. It's called Eviction Protection. And as you guys know, at the moment, with the pandemic, COVID-19, and the possibility of a serious economic crash that is slowly coming onto us, there are a lot of things. A lot of things are really changing. A lot of people aren't able to pay rent, and there have been a lot of questions about what's going to happen with evictions and whatnot. So one of our fellow community members, Alana Greer, she's a movement lawyer, so she represents social movements, and a lot of her cases have to do with like slum wars and whatnot. So a lot of these people were asking them, it's like, what's going to happen to us during this pandemic when we get evicted and we're not able to pay rent? Do we have rights? Do we have any special any special privileges? Is the county making any exceptions? And over time, as she was working with people in Miami-Dade and getting in touch with other lawyers, then, she laid out the process in Miami-Dade. And it turns out that in Miami-Dade, evictions were suspended because the sheriff said, hey, we're not going to be supporting evictions due to the pandemic. But as she was talking to other communities and municipalities, then they realized that the rules were very different in every single municipality. So ultimately, what happened was that she reached out to, as a community member, someone who saw a problem in her community, and she noticed that in other communities it was very inconsistent. Then, talking to other lawyers, she was trying to consolidate all this information in a way that was digestible to people, to the general public. So she reached out to Gregory Bloom, who is actually a community member here at Code for South Florida, formerly a member of Code for DC. He got together a group of volunteers and they built Florida Eviction Protection, which is a platform that you can actually go on right now. And it's a website that basically tracks that highlights the status of evictions in the different municipalities of Miami-Dade. So all it really took for this to, for this project to take place, I'm gonna go and navigate the website so you guys can see it. All it really took for this project to happen was that you had a community member, in this case Alana Greer, who was a local lawyer representing disadvantaged groups. She said, well, there's a problem here. The problem being that eviction laws and eviction regulations are inconsistent across municipalities, and people aren't getting the right information. So, there's a way we definitely have a better way to display that information. And ultimately, what this information can lead people to be is to be able to represent themselves in cases of eviction and come together and say, we are not these are our rights and we can actually fight for our rights. So that's just one example of, let me see. That's just one example of the things that we do here. That's kind of a civic hacking story, right? Where you have a group of people who are figuring out how to solve this problem, and then they come together from different skill sets and they put what they know all together, and then they create a tool that hopefully leads to some sort of change, right? And from the point that the tool gets created to the point that it goes elsewhere, then that's a wholly different process. But that's an example of a civic hacking process of people coming together and saying there's a problem and this is how we're going to help it, fix it, or support it. So where do most people, you're here in this meetup. Let me check the counter. So we have 9 people in this meeting. Really, really awesome. So where do I fit in if you're a newcomer? Well, there are several roles, especially specific roles that are most useful in terms of engaging in a civic hacking process. One of them being community experts, whether public servants, lawyers, or people directly affected by an issue. They're the people at the forefront who can contribute the knowledge, data, and insights that are most valuable to us. They're the people that we can directly go to and say, how is the landscape doing? And what can we do to help you? They're also they're usually key nodes in building bridges and relationships with relevant community members and people and key stakeholders who can actually support the projects and support the initiatives and bring more awareness to the initiatives, whether that be in terms of knowledge or connecting it to more people or bringing people on board into the projects. Another important role, obviously, are the technologists themselves. Anything to do with front end, back end, UX, UI, and actually building out these technology solutions. Anyone who really has those skill sets is, of course, essential and can even become an independent actor in terms of solving those issues, whether it be under the Code for South Florida flag or not. You contribute, technologists can contribute expertise, they can contribute to open source solutions, and they can even work specifically in what matters to them the most. Whether that is through Codes for South Florida, whether that is through, some other nonprofit that they've been contributing to for a very long time, whether that be just providing services to other civic hacking groups or some other groups that are doing good in the world, that makes you a type of civic hacker. As a technologist, makes you very, very useful. And of course, we're always looking for technologists who are who are looking to do good in the world with their skills. Another thing that we've been that is really, really necessary, even if you're not a technologist or a community expert, or maybe you're not affected by an issue, it's still very important to know how these solutions look, these technology solutions that we develop look to users. So if you're somebody, maybe don't necessarily have a UX or UI background, maybe you're not a front end or back end developer, you might not be a lawyer, or you're not affected by a particular issue, you can also help with testing these platforms and solutions and offer your feedback and tell us what we could do better or how your experience is with these individual solutions. It doesn't take a crazy amount of effort, and really what we're looking for is your perspective on how these solutions are working. But it is still very valuable information for us and really for anyone building technology applications. Having user feedback is what enables us to keep iterating and keep creating better platforms as we go on. So that's those are the 3 of the primary roles that we have and that are definitely always in need of. So to get involved, if you really want to get involved, you can join the Slack and find our volunteer form on these links. And now we actually want to hand it off. Well, yeah, join these links, write them down. We'll also put them here at the end of the presentation. But now I would actually like to hand off to Greg so he can talk about RefundDaycom, which is one of our biggest open initiatives right now. Greg, are you here?
Hey, Livio, I'm here. Before I get into that, is there any initial thoughts that you guys have about civic hacking or questions that Livio may have brought up? Or
None that I can think of right now.
Cool. All right. Well, let me share my screen and share a little about the stuff that we're doing with Get Your Refund.
What's the site's name? RefundDay.com.
Yep. So let me know if you can see my screen. Awesome. So RefundDay.com is essentially our effort with Code for America to bridge the Earned Income Tax Credit Program. Essentially, one of the things that we've looked at through our research is a lot of people need or want to get their taxes filed, but how do you do that in a time where online tax filing is now here? So there's TurboTax, there's a bunch of other partners, but oftentimes they take a little bit to do this and it's not really free tax filing. So one of the things that we've done is we create a coalition around a national program called VITA, which stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And it's a nationwide program with a bunch of nonprofit partners that offer free tax filing services. And amongst COVID, you can't do it in person, so it now has to be online. This is what kind of sparked us to launch Refund Day, which is an online tax filing platform to help these partners scale their efforts of getting more people to fill out their taxes online. So typically you're low income or middle class, or you qualify for this program if you make less than $66,000 a year. The way the program works is that you reach out to us, you start the taxing filing process, you click this Get Started link, which sends you over to Get Your Refund, which is the online intake process form. And for people that don't know, so I know April 15th is typically the day that tax filing is, the deadline is up, but it's been extended to July 15th. So the reason we're launching this initiative is to get more people involved to file their taxes. And if you do it for 2019, you also get your stimulus check, which should arrive like, we don't have a set date for that, but it can also help with that if you haven't got your stimulus check because you haven't filed for taxes. So it's kind of twofold. And this is taken kind of like what Livio was mentioning when it comes to civic hacking, user-centered focus, where they looked at how people are feeling about taxes and they built an online intake that can kind of reflect that. So some of the initial questions they ask you is what year you're looking to file for. It's preliminary questions, and it goes through all of like the online intake, and it's completely free. Where we see ourselves fitting into this is helping with virtual onboarding, and we've assembled a team of about 4 to help our coalition kind of expand this work and get more teams associated with better ways to do virtual tax filing. We're working with Branches Florida, Catalyst Miami, Hispanic Unity of Florida, and of course our partners in Fort Lauderdale to kind of do this work. Some of the things that we noticed is that there was a lack of a coalition around this effort. Everybody's kind of siloed in the way that they work. We also noticed that Get Your Refund was a great tool and a great program that we can kind of partner and leverage with, because they've right now launched this in about 5 states. And we're the first brigade out of 85 cities to kind of launch this initiative where we're working with partners and leveraging our technical experience to build a campaign around this effort that can kind of help with the human support side of things. And then one of the challenges we've seen through user research is just that Get Your Refund wasn't built for scaling with partners, it was built for filing taxes online. So what we're doing to resolve this issue is we have a roadmap to create a sandbox environment to triage the issues and tickets that may come in from somebody filling out their tax filing information, create a more end-to-end demo experience of what this looks like and how people can go through it on their smartphone, and then building a partner onboarding FAQ document using tools like a chatbot service to make it easier for people to question and like get direct answers through their smartphone and with less kind of red tape if you don't have access to your desktop. And we're looking for volunteers that want to like help in kind of doing some of this groundwork. So it's refundday.com, and if you're interested in filing your taxes, you can go to getyourrefund.org. And in the coming weeks, we're going to start doing some testing around this. So if you want to just give feedback on how we can make this tool better, that's also an option. You can feel free to reach out to any of us at team@codeforsouth.com. All right. So is there any questions before I go to the next piece? I want to talk about another volunteer opportunity that we have. quiet group of 9 people. Okay, let me share my screen and show you what we're working on related to the Teals program. So if you're not familiar, Teals is a Microsoft program that is helping bring computer science in every high school. If you don't know, across the nation, I believe 55% of high schools do not offer computer science. 90% of parents want their students and their children to get into computer science. And there's kind of a gap here, even if you grew up in South Florida like myself, where you don't really get access to computer science unless you get into college. And by then it's kind of like you take that first computer science class and it may not be your forte because it's something new to you and you feel discouraged. So one thing we think is introducing computer science as early as possible can get students excited about getting into this career path. And the best way to do that is to pair technologists with these students and their teachers to build CS programs around this. So this is a photo of a Teals volunteer teaching Java at Medgar Evers College Prep. So what does Teals stand for? Teals stands for Technology, Education, and Literacy in Schools. And essentially a program to connect classroom teachers with tech industry volunteers to create what they can believe is going to be a computer science program that's sustainable. What does that look like? It looks like most new teachers that are doing CS programs are looking for the best content to put out. And as we know, as technologists, technology moves so fast. There's new languages like Swift. There's new things like TypeScript by Microsoft. How do you keep up with all of these new innovations? Pair them up with professionals working in this field to help them kind of work on programs that could essentially be taught and used even after the volunteer experience. So right now, since 2009, there's been nearly 75,000 students have learned CS through Teals courses, teaching teams to implement just like rudimentary Python, Java, and just computer science principles. One of our efforts here at Code for South Florida is to help bridge this in our community because it's new to Miami. So it's just launching and they're looking and gearing up. And here's a little look at like some of the impact numbers from 2019 to 2020 in terms of like the school year. They've touched 625 Teals schools, 921 classes taught, 21,000 students, 38% of those were female, and about 750 companies and organizations were represented, and 1,800 of those were tech volunteers. So the important part of this is Teals can't do it alone. They're partnering up with Miami-Dade Public Schools, Microsoft Tech Spark program, Miami EdTech, and us as Code for Miami, and this unique opportunity. What they're looking for is about 50 people to volunteer. When they say volunteer, they're looking for tech professionals, typically that are a little bit more, you've had a couple years in the tech field. What they've noticed is usually people that are seasoned 2 to 3 years or retiring are usually the best. We encourage anybody to like submit, but those are typically like the makeup of people that usually have the bandwidth and time and are really energetic about this type of work. Right now, we're going to be starting in Miami with 7 high schools, 10 CS classes, and this can be done in person or virtually, and about 300 students. So this is a quote by one of the volunteers on like what their effort was in Brooklyn. Our volunteers, Illy and Will, have been instrumental in the success of our first year computer science program. Personally, for me, I've gone into a lot of the low income kind of areas in Miami-Dade, whether that's in Miami Gardens or off in like other places like close to Sweetwater area. And I've noticed that a lot of these classrooms need more kind of tech professionals to speak to the students because there's a gap in like new initiatives where students are kind of like not as motivated, and programs that have CS programs are kind of stretched thin in terms of like offering services and even aftercare. And yes, we know all the schools have gone digital, but that still is a need that can be filled with anybody that has a computer to kind of just talk to a group of students about the work that they do. So if you're interested, you can go to Microsoft.com/Teals for more information. I'm going to drop something in the chat, and we're going to be doing a more conscious initiative around sending emails for those that may be interested in participating in this on behalf of Code for Miami. And it's a great way to just get involved and do something really meaningful. You can go to aka.ms/Teals app if you want to learn more information. They also have ongoing info sessions and webinars. And I'll be sending this through the Slack as well as through email. So if you're signed up as a member for Code for Miami, you'll get that information. If you also have questions, you can connect with Lucia at tealssk12.org. She's going to be the program manager of this program here in Miami. So you can reach out. All right, that's all I have to
Hello. Thank you very much, Greg. So yeah, you guys can see it's really about, like I said, coming together, talking to people, and seeing what we can do about it. Having technology professionals help students get excited about technology. That is a very big ripple effect on someone's individual life. And now that we're doing taxes and doing all this stuff around taxes, we definitely, there's definitely a very big need for people who are interested, people who want to get involved, people who want to make a difference. So what's something, if there's anything you should take out of today, is that civic hacking is not a mysterious and inaccessible process. It's not limited to technology professionals. It's very much leans to technology professionals, but it's not limited to them. It's not an activity that requires any credentials, just certificates and degrees. It's really a group of citizens taking collective and independent action to improve public welfare, and regardless of social, cultural, or economic background. So if you really want to get involved, get in touch with us, talk to us. No one is coming. It's up to us. And work on things that matter, because that's really the only way to pave the way to the future. So we're Code for South Florida. Gregory Johnson, who just spoke, he's the Code for South Florida director. I'm the Miami program manager. Roberto Beltran, who's sitting somewhere in here.
Hello.
Hello. He's our lieutenant per se. He gave himself that title, but he helps us a lot out with our Civic Hacking 101 experience overall. And special thanks to our Civic community of hackers and partners. We can't really do this without them. So follow us on codeforsouthflorida.com. This is our new website. It's still very much a work in progress, but it's a good place to get connected and find out all of our information. Our next event is going to be March 30th, Open Hack Night, where we're basically going to be talking about all of our open projects and open initiatives. And also a great opportunity to get involved with, to get to know some other people in the tech community. So thank you very much. Do we have any closing remarks, outstanding questions or concerns?
Someone asked a question.
Was that meant to be April 30th? Are we in March? Yeah,
right.
April 30th.
Oh, you're right. April 30th. I just wrote it in March by accident, but yes.
I guess it's not so much of a question, but kind of like seeking advice. You don't want to over volunteer yourself for like a lot of things. So what would be like a manageable kind of volunteer effort? Like kind of focus on one thing, and then once you've done that, go ahead and shift your focus to try to volunteer into something else. What would be the advice for that? Because I've been coming to the Civic Hack meetings. I'm actually involved in the Florida Eviction Protection .org, and I like a lot of what I'm hearing, but like I also don't want to go ahead and like try to dip my toes in too many projects and then kind of get lost.
Well,
so what would be your biggest advice?
I mean, my best advice is to explore it, consider it, see what the responsibilities are, and if you like it, then go ahead with it. If you can take it as part of your workload, why not? It's really that's why it's volunteer work. It's up to you. You come in, you put your part, and if you can't do it, then you just got to be honest with us and honest with yourself and say, I can't do it right now. But that's really why it's volunteer work. So. We have Civic user testing initiatives, and we also have the different initiatives going on right now. So if you're already involved, great. If you want to do something else, there's opportunities for you to get more involved. If you're having doubts, then it's worth talking about. But it's at the end of the day, it's really up to you and what your workload is and whether or not you can handle, whether or not you can take on those responsibilities.
And then I guess my follow-up question to that is, who's the best POC, or is there project POCs for certain aspects of it? Like you said, a lot of projects need programmers, but there's also the other side of it. If you don't know how to program, you can volunteer to test out stuff, write material for the website that's being built, or help with the research or the question, like that type of aspect. I'm sorry. Where was I got lost in my question. No, but I would say, is there a point of contact for those that are beginner developers that want to get involved? Is there a developer, like a lead developer, and where can we find that information for every project to kind of see where we can help out?
Hey friends, that's good. This is Gregory, program director. So yeah, right now we have a few lead directors, like Patah Dunbar. He's the lead developer for the Miami-Dade. We also have Ryan Gates, who's in Broward, which coded for Fort Lauderdale. And then we also have developers like Whitney. What I would say towards projects that can touch on the non-technical aspects, because we are small in resources, we're typically focused on priority projects. So there's a lot of projects going on that we don't have our hands in, because the bigger projects we see right now coming up is Refund Day or a participatory budget app. And those projects do require a lot of non-technical skills. One that I would say that you may want to jump into, to touch on Livio's point, is maybe the Refund Day project. So when I think of good volunteer projects, I think of projects that you can learn some skills on, and you can add it to your resume after 2-4 weeks of contributing whatever amount of hours, and it can help you get to that next step, whatever it may be in your professional goals, or help you learn a new skill. Right now, I would say the biggest one I see on our radar is going to be our Refund Day initiative, because it's dealing with a big national problem, which is COVID-19 is creating a need for people to fill out their online taxes. We're working with a coalition of people that have never worked together to build an online presence around that. And we're also looking at how tech can make it more accessible and easy for people to do that, that speak Spanish, Haitian Creole. And then we're looking at a sizable group of people to impact, almost 20 to 30,000 people, with this type of tool that can give them, money in their pocket. And I think that's a heavy weight project that if you put it on, and even if you do content writing or design for it, can be a great resume boost. Second to that project, we do have a development lead on that. If you reach out to me, I can definitely get it. And I know you've been on our list for a bit of just eager working on projects outside of eviction protection. And we do have that list again, but it's just it's taking us time to remodel it. We just hired a bunch of people on the team, so we're going to be a little bit more better on how we coordinate moving forward. But that's what I'd say in terms of projects to leap into if you want to get something good and meaty and tech worthy, if you're a new and beginner.
Awesome, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Hi. I wanted to ask, who were the 7 high schools that this initiative would be working with?
Greg, I think that's a question for you.
That is a question for me. Let me see if I can find that list. I don't remember off the top of my head what those 7 schools are, but I will drop when I do get that information. I can send it out. But I don't have that on me right now.
Also, I wanted to know if this initiative was something that I guess we're trying to push for the upcoming school year, just because by the time, I feel it would just kind of be loosely implemented by the time if this whole COVID thing is falls through. And by the time that we get back to school, it's kind of already the last semester for high school students.
Yeah, so this is going to be for the upcoming school year. So the way the timeline is you do interviews now, April and May. Placements happen in May and June. Summer training, they actually give you training for June, July, and August. And then you meet your students in September.
And just from the top of my head, like, is there any chance that this could actually be persuaded onto middle schools?
So right now, because it's with our partners, which Microsoft, it's really just targeted towards high school students at this time. We have like played around with the idea of middle school, but because it's a national program, that's typically the focus. So I think there are like adjacent programs that help with middle school, like Code Fever, which is a good partner and organization we have a relationship with. They do like more inclusive programs for like the 16-year-olds and touch on like computer science principles, but for this program, it's the same at high school.
I was also wondering if when we talk about Miami-Dade public schools, I know that it doesn't entail public schools, but if like this was going to include like those charter public schools and then just private schools as well.
I think this the last time I looked at it, because I haven't looked at these schools in a bit, I believe it's just kind of like the public high schools, and they're also looking at like high schools with a mixed group of like minorities and ones that don't have CS programs. So I think this is more of those and less of like the charter schools. I think they're starting off with like more of those like schools and zip codes that have like a heavy need, especially in like low income zip codes or zip codes that traditionally didn't have a CS program, or like let's say the CS program coordinator quit. Like they're looking for like programs, schools that they can kind of reignite that energy with.
Okay. And just because I know, like, for example, when I was in high school, I didn't have a computer. So let's say that these students were taking these classes with laptops or like just those educational purpose laptops, would those be given to them?
So I am not sure. I do know they're going to be helping with the curriculum. I don't know if like in the scope of this program, they also touch on like distributing laptops. I think it's more so like focused on like helping the schools like center the program. And some of these schools have like iPads. Like there's one school, I forgot the program, it skips my name now, but they've given to all the students like iPads, and it's like an interesting model. But from what I know now, I'm not sure if all the students have access to laptops.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Greg, on that point, in Libre Miami, I think we're starting up like a refurbishing and like Libre booting kind of initiative. So it might be if there's like a particular need. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are going to be like and how fast, but I might be able to get laptops donated.
Nice. I will reach out to you and we could talk about that. But yeah, we're really happy to be a part of this initiative. And when I get more information, I documented all of like which schools are going to be worked on. I'll send that to you guys. What I encourage you to do is be in the Slack and make sure that you signed up to be a volunteer, because that's how we're tracking people by skill levels and letting them know about opportunities. So Francisca, for example, I will be sending to you like the roles that we're going to be having open for the refund day. And for just everybody in general, it's going to be like there's a client support specialist role, there's a technical support specialist role, there's a content writer role. There's roles for technical and non-technical people if you're interested in Refund Day project.
All right. Any outstanding questions or concerns? I think it should be the last question before we end the session. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming, to everyone that showed up. Definitely, if you're interested, don't forget to sign up, and we will be in touch with you. Don't forget to follow us on Meetup, and check out our website if you want to learn more. So stay in touch, guys. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, Livio.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Have a good one. Good night, everybody.